for 2023 Aria.
When you hear this,
they've got him again,
and this,
he scored,
and this,
oh boy, what a move by Embiid!
You think of us. We are sports. 97.3 ESPN, WENJ, WENJ HD, Millville, Atlantic City, a town square media station. This is Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app. Now, live from the Matt Black Kia Studios.
Oh, what a move!
Here's Josh Hennig.
Josh Hennig here on Game Night. I am back after a day off yesterday. We are live in the 97.3 ESPN studios here on 97.3 ESPN FM. You're listening in your car, your radio, or if you're listening on the 97.3 ESPN mobile app, it's free. Thanks to First Bank of Seattle City. We got a lot to get to. NBA offseason news is churning as we are counting down to the official start of the NBA offseason and free agency. Plus, James Harden, opt in, opt out tomorrow. We will find out all that and more. Kevin McCormick will join us coming up in less than 20 minutes from now. Plus, also the Phillies start a series with the Atlanta Braves tonight. But we got some very important news about the Phillies and what's going to be happening to them moving forward. So all that on tap. As always, you can join the conversation. Text board is open. 609-403-0973 is the text board. You also can DM the show through that 97.3 ESPN mobile app, as I mentioned earlier. It's there thanks to First Bank of Seattle City. All right, let's get to the Phillies news first, and then we'll get to the NBA stuff. Because after a weekend where the Phillies found a way to win despite losing Bryce Harper, and they deserve a lot of credit for that, as they are now going to have to go forward without their MVP, their best player. They also get the news today that Zach Eflin will be on the 15-day injured list. Now, it's retroactive to the 26th. So that was 2 days ago on Sunday. So what that means is that basically Zach Eflin will be gone for 2 weeks as of Sunday. Now, it already looks like it's going to be Bailey Falter to fill his slot. This is a big, big problem for the Phillies because they're already a team without their best hitter, without their second baseman. They brought in Oscar Mercado, who is basically a center fielder. He plays all the outfield positions, but he's mostly a center fielder to add to the depth of this team. And now you're going to be without one of your starting pitchers for 2 weeks minimum. This is going to be something that we discussed earlier. Okay, we talked about this on the Sports Bash with Mike Gill, with yours truly here on Game Night, here on 97.3 ESPN FM. We even talked about in the locker room with Billy Schweim on Saturdays. You cannot go forward and just hope for the best with this pitching staff. You have a guy in Zach Eflin who at least was a reliable guy day in and day out, okay? You had a guy in Eflin who you at least knew, hey, Eflin is someone we can rely on. Eflin is someone who you at least had confidence in going out there. You don't have that anymore. You lose a guy who, let's be realistic, before the last couple games where they keep talking about his knee issues, his knee problems, and all that stuff. But the previous starts before that, you go back and you realize he's had a really good stretch here, aside from one game. In the 6 starts before the knee stuff came up, you're talking about a guy in Eflin that was actually not pitching bad at all. He only gave up 15 runs over 37 innings. That's less than a run an inning. It's a little over a run an inning. He had an opponent's batting average of 225. He was actually pitching well. He was actually going out there and getting outs and doing a good job and being a steady, reliable guy. And then the knee problems happen. The one game he only pitches 2 innings. Then he pitched 5 innings in his last start. Now, he only gave up 2 runs in those 5 innings. So at least his knee was good enough to get through that. But man, now you're going to be without a guy who's a reliable pitcher for you. I'm not saying he's a great pitcher, okay? He's not one of your best 2 pitchers. He's not Nola. He's not Wheeler. But he's a guy who was going out there and consistently give you innings. Wheeler is someone okay, this guy is a Cy Young caliber pitcher. Aaron Nola is a guy you say, this guy, when he's on, he's one of the better pitchers in all of baseball. And statistically, actually, Nola's had a better year than Wheeler has. But you look at Zach Eflin's career since 2019. You're talking about a guy who has a 4.16 ERA, 4.16 ERA. Frankly, that's not bad, all things considered. He's also got 2 shutouts in that period. So Eflin has shown you consistently from 2019 to now that he's a guy who will give you, on average, 188 innings a year. He's going to give you, on average, around 20 starts a year. He's going to have some stability and consistency for you each and every year. If you go by his baseball reference projections, basically Eflin is a guy who should be able to go out there and get you a good amount of innings every year. But now you're going to be without him. And now you got to fall back on Bailey Falter. You got to fall back on a bullpen that has had its moments. It's not all bad. And now you got to fall back on an offense that is without Bryce Harper, their best hitter, without Gene Segura, who's arguably at worst one of their 5 best hitters on this team. And now you got to go forward without 3 important players on this team. How do the Phillies respond? We're going to find out tonight. It starts tonight because you're going against the Atlanta Braves, a team that is ahead of you in the wild card standings, a team that was smoking hot for most of this month. The Phillies had a very, very good month. The Braves have had an even better month. That's really where the rubber meets the road here. Now you got to go and face them. The last time you played the Braves, you split the series. This time, you got to win 2 out of 3. You got to get back to winning series. Look, you lost outright to the Rangers in Texas. 2 games that were not completely out of hand. You could have had opportunities to win, but you left runners on base. You go to San Diego, you win 2 out of 3. Boom, get the job done. Good job. Now you're back home without Harper against the Braves. Tonight is the first night you got to win. Every time Wheeler goes to the mound, you have to find a way to win those games. And the other 2 games this series, it's not like the Braves are completely unbeatable, all right? We saw Kenley Jansen blow a save this weekend against the Dodgers, right? Tonight, you got Charlie Morton. And it's not the Charlie Morton of old. Charlie Morton is looking old. He almost has a 5 ERA on the season. And you have Wheeler going tonight. You have to win tonight. Because tomorrow, you got one of the Braves' best pitchers, Kyle Wright. Thursday, it's Nola versus Anderson. And while Anderson has struggled at times this year, he's still a dangerous pitcher for you because he's got a good record career-wise against you. He's been Jekyll and Hyde, okay? I understand that. Anderson, he only lost 2 runs in 6 innings to the A's, then 4 runs to the Nationals, then no runs to the Cubs, and then 4 runs to the Dodgers. Well, guess what? This is the other game. It's every other game. This is the other game. But you got to get started tonight on the hot note. Take out the pitcher who struggled. Take advantage of Morton, who's got a 5 ERA. You got Wheeler on the mound. Tomorrow is going to be a lot tougher with Wright on the mound. And then Thursday, you got Nola. You can win 2 out of 3. But it's not going to be easy because after that, You got a 3-game set with a team ahead of you as well in the standings in the Cardinals. That's where Bailey Falters to now pitch Friday instead of Eflin. And he's got Mikolas on the other side. He's one of the best pitchers in baseball. Saturday, Gibson versus Wright. And then you got Wheeler on Sunday Night Baseball. So the next 6 games, all at home. But these are games you got to win if you're Philadelphia. We're going to find out what this team is made of, what this clubhouse is made of. You want to find out if firing Joe Girardi matters? This is where you find out. You want to find out if Rob Thompson mojo is real? This is where you find out. You want to know if this team's for real? These are the 6 games that are going to matter. 3 against Atlanta, 3 against St. Louis. They're both ahead of you in the standings, and they're all games at home. If you don't win 4 of the next 6 games, then there's going to be a lot of people asking questions like myself moving forward. Josh Hennig here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN FM and the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle City. More coverage of the Phillies over at 97.3 ESPN.com and on 97.3 ESPN mobile app. Over to the NBA. Last night, the news came out that Kyrie Irving committed to the Nets. Today, he's posting on social media that he's finding his zen over in North and South Dakota. First of all, good for him. Kyrie's going to get paid $37 million. He's out there finding his chi or zen or whatever he's doing. Frankly, Kyrie mixes and matches his religious references so much, I'm not even fully sure what he believes in at the time. But here's what I do know. There were multiple reports out there that Kyrie wanted to stay with the Nets. And there were multiple reports out there that said that the Lakers would have had interest in him. But when the report came out that only the Lakers were interested in trading for him, and the previous report that even though Kyrie was interested in certain teams, that those teams didn't consider him a priority, I think it all became very clear that Kyrie wasn't going to sign a long-term deal. But at the end of the day, I think this is still a win-win for the Nets, and this is where it might hurt the Sixers. Kyrie Irving is on a prove-it year. If Kyrie wants to get another big-time NBA contract, he's going to have to come out and show that he is the best version of himself so he can hit the free agent market. And whether he gets the deal from the Nets or he gets it from somebody else, he's going to get paid next offseason as long as he balls out this season. I think he'll be motivated to do that. He won't have any COVID stuff to be a distraction, okay? He'll have Kevin Durant healthy. He'll be healthy. And if Ben Simmons actually shows up and plays, the Nets are going to be very dangerous for a team like the 76ers. Now, the 76ers still have time to make the moves necessary to become the team that needs to be a beast in the East, okay? It's not like the Miami Heat and the Boston Celtics and the Milwaukee Bucks and the Brooklyn Nets are these unbeatable juggernauts for the Sixers. You could make an argument that if Joel Embiid doesn't have a busted face and a ripped up hand, that maybe the Sixers beat the Miami Heat in the second round. Maybe if James Harden didn't play like he was on one leg still, and maybe they actually get out of the second round. There's no guarantee that the Nets are going to be the best team in the East because we've already seen them struggle with both Durant and Kyrie on the floor. We've seen them win big and we've seen them struggle. Right now, the two teams that have to scare you the most are Boston and Milwaukee if you're an Eastern Conference team, because Milwaukee went 7 games with Boston without Chris Middleton. If Middleton is healthy, you can make an argument that maybe Milwaukee wins that series. And Boston's now got NBA Finals experience under their belt. You have handed Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum a taste of the promised land. They saw the light. They saw the trophy. They saw the moment in front of them, and they didn't win it. Now they know what it takes to get to that moment, to get to that place. And you know that Boston is not going to sit on their hands. They're going to make at least one move this offseason to make that roster better. So for the Sixers, while Kyrie is probably going to be the headline of the offseason, I think it's good news for them that Kyrie resigned, because now the Nets are in just as much of a bind financially as you are. Look, it's not like the Nets can go out and not spend you left and right in the offseason. In fact, there's only a handful of teams that have legitimate cap space. You're talking about teams like San Antonio and Detroit who have legitimate cap space. You're not worried about those teams because one team's in the West and one team's Detroit. Come on. I'm not worried about Detroit. But what happens with the Harden opt-in is the next step in the Sixers offseason. If Harden opts in, that's a guaranteed $47, $48 million, bang in his pocket, bang against the cap, and you have limited options. But if Harden decides to opt out of that deal and sign a long-term deal that at least is going to give the Sixers some cap relief in the short and long term, now it changes things. But now we know that Kyrie's back in Brooklyn. We know how to operate moving forward. And it makes the Anthony Melton acquisition even more appealing because you know with the Anthony Melton in the fold, you got a lot more confidence going against a team like the Nets and Boston and Milwaukee on the defensive end than you did previously. We'll dig deeper into Sixers in the NBA offseason coming up next with Kevin McCormick here on Game Night. I'm Josh Hennig, and this is 97.3 ESPN FM. Don't forget, for all your Phillies, Sixers, Eagles coverage, high school sports, Flyers, and more about South Jersey right there on the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. It's free. Thanks to First Bank of Sea Isle.
The best way to wake up is with Keyshawn, J. Will, and Max. Weekday mornings at 6 on 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.
We're Town Square Media, and along with the awesome radio station you're listening to right now, we're publishers of best-in-class national entertainment brands like Taste of Country, Pop Crush, and more. And when combined with our local brands, we can reach over 70% of consumers in our community. At Town Square, all this digital clout puts us in a unique position to help local businesses grow with powerful marketing solutions. In addition to local radio, we're experts at web design and SEO, plus targetable advertising solutions like streaming TV, addressable geofencing, YouTube, Snapchat, Facebook, Spotify, search engine marketing, and so much more. That may sound like a lot of buzzwords, but really all that matters is we can deliver a relevant and ideal target audience to your business with data-informed decisions. No guessing, no waste, and you gain a trusted marketing partner with Town Square Media.
Take your business to the next level. Call our Director of Sales, Jim McLean, today at 609-910-5247.
O'Reilly. This is Sarah's O'Reilly Auto Parts story.
Driving cross country with 2 young children is ambitious, to say the least. Then our check engine light came on. We pulled into O'Reilly Auto Parts and they tested it. Turned out it was a faulty sensor. They referred us to a great mechanic just down the street, and we were back on the road in no time.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Okay, import footage. How is the hard drive already full?
Jawan's Pilates studio converted to entirely virtual classes.
MPEG.
But leading and editing sessions is stretching her too thin.
It says render failed. What did I do?
Indeed can help her hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. We instantly connect you with quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your job description. Earn up to $500 in sponsored job credits by conducting interviews on Indeed. Visit Indeed.com/credit. Terms and conditions apply.
With GMF financing, approved credit excludes Corvette and prior sales. There's big news just announced from Bennett Chevy in Egg Harbor Township. Bennett's got huge savings on every new Chevy in stock. And right now, this is huge. Bennett's paying a record-breaking minimum $10,000 for any trade, running or not. That's at least 10 grand towards any pre-owned vehicle in stock. And we're loaded with them, so we're having a pre-owned liquidation. Hurry in for a minimum 10 grand for even the worst trade. And just think how much more you'll get for a good quality trade. As for new Chevys, unlike other dealers, Bennett's not selling over a factory sticker. Plus, there's 0% available financing. Stuck in a lease? We can get you out early, any make, any model, and we'll buy your vehicle even if you don't buy one of ours. Stop in for a quick quote, never any pressure, never any obligation, because our non-commissioned sales staff is paid on your satisfaction, not how much you spend. So come on and find new roads at Bennett Chevrolet, Egg Harbor Township, and BennettChevy.com.
You're listening to Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
Game Night being brought to you by American Airlines and Atlantic City International Airport. ACY now has your one-stop ticket to over 90 domestic and international destinations. Book your next trip today at AA.com. We are counting down to not just the James Harden, is he in, is he out of the player option, but the NBA offseason. So to get into all of those details, joining us, he returns. Kevin McCormick, of course, covers the Sixers and the NBA, formerly with 97.3 ESPN, now over there with Heavy. He joins us now here on 97.3 ESPN. Kevin, how you doing today?
Josh, I'm doing good. How about yourself?
Doing pretty good. So let's start breaking down some of these details, okay? I mentioned Harden. So explain to the audience a little more about the significance of tomorrow and why that will dictate a lot of the Sixers offseason.
I would say it would dictate a lot because what the final decision comes down to will kind of lay out the scheme of really how much money the Sixers will have to work with. So currently, James Harden has the option to either opt into his player option, which is for $47.4 million, I believe. That would keep him under contract through next season and would give the Sixers the option to add an extension on top of that, or he could decline the option, become an unrestricted free agent, and sign an entirely new deal with the Sixers or anywhere if he so choose.
Now, I know a lot of people are sweating a lot of the number stuff, but let me ask you this. Whether Harden opts into his deal or signs a deal, the Sixers are paying him money no matter what. It's not like Harden is going to be getting, the $6 million mid-level exception or something. So, whether it's 36 or 48 million, whatever the number is, Harden's getting his, right?
Yeah, he's still going to be paid a sizable contract. If I had to assume, I would say be some type of layout where the deal's kind of front loaded because you also have to account for keeping money open on the back end because Tyrese Maxey will soon be due for an extension, and he'll be another one that will be due for a pretty handsome payday after what we've seen so far. So I think it'll be one of those things where the money might be tight this year, depending on what happens with Tobias Harris, as well as his contract ends at the end of not the season coming up, but the following one. So it could be a little tricky now, but I think it'll be kind of a hindsight 2020 thing to where you might pay him a little more now to lessen it on the back end, depending on the length of the deal. I know there's been a lot of talk of him opting in and then adding 2 more years onto that. So it seems like that 3 to 4 year range is going to be where they're at. But yes, he's still going to be a top 3, highest paid player on the Sixers roster.
When the Sixers got DeAnthony Melton, there was almost no rumor or speculation that he was on their radar, right? Everything we heard was Eric Gordon, Malik Beasley. Like we heard all these other names. We didn't hear Melton. Is there a possibility that there's something coming with Daryl Morey that we have no idea about, and we just need to trust the process, for lack of a better term?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a ton of deals or, potential suitors behind the scenes that just haven't popped up in rumors yet. Like you said, PJ Tucker, Eric Gordon, I think those have been the 2 most common names that I think we've seen about almost daily at this point.
Please no Eric Gordon.
I mean, with Danny Green's contract gone, I don't know how they're going to facilitate that trade now, but the rumors still pop out there that Morey's trying to figure out a 3-team deal. But with a guy like Morey, who is just known to swing any kind of trade or signing, he is known to explore every possible avenue. It is almost fair to assume that he has, plans A through Z of how this summer could go, depending on how the dominoes fall. So yes, there is absolutely, moves and talks that go on behind the scenes that don't make it up in rumors.
You mentioned PJ Tucker. He's a name that's come up a lot. Obviously, Keith Pompey had that report even before the draft that 3-year, $30 million situation. There's been a lot of speculation with with the Sixers talking about toughness and heart and everything after the season, that PJ Tucker would be a focus because he was with Harden and Morey in Houston. If you had to put a percentage on it, what do you think the most likely percentage is of PJ Tucker being in a Sixers uniform next year?
If they're seeing all the reports have come up, because now at this point, it's not just Keith Pompey. He was obviously one of the first ones to be out in front of this, but you're seeing it from Mark Stein now. It's a common feature that's brought up amongst, all NBA circles, not just here in the Philly market. So gauging off of that, I think I'd have to say 75% maybe. The only thing I would say that keeps me a little skeptical is the whole 3 years, $30 million thing. That seems like a very steep price tag for a guy like PJ Tucker, who's at where he's at right now. He's going to be 37 years old coming into this season. And while he adds a lot with, like you said, the toughness and the defensive versatility, what he can do as a small ball five, he could definitely be valuable here in Philadelphia. But to pay him, $10 million a year for the next 3 years, that'll have him do $10 million when he's 39 years old. You don't even know what you'll be able to get out of him at that point. But I also understand that you're trying to compete for the title in the short term. But understanding all that and the price tag that's come with it in these rumors, I think that's the only thing that leaves me a little skeptical about this reunion.
Kevin McCormick joining us here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN FM, the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank and CLC. Follow him on Twitter at Kevin MCC NBA for all your Sixers and NBA coverage. Now, I mentioned Melton earlier. To me, I like the Melton move because he's a two-way guy. And what I hate about Eric Gordon is a one-way guy, and he's small, okay? I feel like in order for you to compete in the East, it's not that Milwaukee and Boston and Miami and Brooklyn are unbeatable. It's that you need the right personnel to match up with them. Like, you look at what the Warriors did in the finals. Steve Kerr basically told Jordan Poole to cool it on the bench and put Gary Payton II in there for multiple minutes. And they won. They won an NBA championship because Kerr said, I don't care about my offensive third and fourth option right now. I care about winning. And I think that Melton, yes, he can score. Yes, he can shoot. But he's also a very good defensive player. And I think the reason why I like PJ Tucker and I'm out on Eric Gordon personally is because I see the Sixers going against Milwaukee or Brooklyn or Boston or Miami again in a playoff series, and I'm worried that Eric Gordon's going to get his ankles crossed up every 5 seconds.
I mean, you also have to worry about Eric Gordon getting hurt as well. He has a pretty extensive injury history. But no, I'm with you. I think I'd lean that same way. I mean, the old saying, defense wins championships. It's a necessity, and it's when you look at the Sixers roster, kind of like how you mentioned the Warriors with a guy like Gary Payton II, the Sixers kind of have their scoring in place now. You have Joel Embiid, who's fresh off winning the scoring title. James Harden can still get it done on the offensive side of the floor. Tyrese Maxey is only beginning to emerge. You bring in a guy like Melton, who, like you said, is a two-way. I love that deal. And to add on top of everything that you said, I also love the fact that he's a combo guard, because now you can throw in the idea of not only can he be a backup to James Harden or Tyrese Maxey, the three of them can be interchangeable. Any two of the three can play together at all times. You can throw Melton out there when you need a little more defense. He's a spot-up shooter. He shot over 40% on catch-and-shoot threes. So I'm with you. I agree. Stocking up on defense and kind of bringing back the defensive identity that the Sixers built a couple years ago, I think will benefit them greatly as they look to compete in the Eastern Conference.
Speaking of competing in the Eastern Conference, look, anyone who knows me knows I don't hate Kyrie Irving. I'm not one of those people. I've been critical of him at times, but at the end of the day, I'm not going to read too much into him opting in, because at the end of the day, I think that Kyrie was going to get paid either way. It's not like he was going to retire and walk away from basketball, even though he's in North and South Dakota right now, finding his Zen or his Chi or whatever he's doing. I mean, no offense to Kyrie. I've heard a lot of good things about him off the record, about how great of a person he is, how much that's for charity. But the dude needs to stop confusing his religious metaphors. Like, nobody knows what his religious thing is. I mean, he's mixed about 5 religions in the last 5 months. It's ridiculous. But all that aside, Kyrie opting in, what does it mean to you about the competition in the East for the Sixers?
I don't think it really changes much, just because I feel like I've always kind of kept the Nets in a high tier of a team that could potentially compete in the East. I think they're still going to be in the mix as well, depending on how things unfold. I mean, it's hard to gauge what their locker room might feel like right now, considering, between all the stuff that's come out over the past few days between Kyrie and KD. And on top of that, you'll have Ben Simmons hopefully taking the floor this year for the first time in over a year. So I think there's just a lot of, just moving and interchanging parts. And that feels like it could be a very radioactive locker room. And I think that could definitely hurt their chances of competing. But just from a basketball perspective, they're still a team to watch out for in the Eastern Conference. At the end of the day, when you're talking offensive duos, James Harden and Kevin Durant are still arguably top 5 in that category to, still superstar level players. So if they're, reunited on the floor and Kyrie's playing every night, then that's our, for sure a team to watch moving forward.
See, I'm with you on that point. I'm not worried about Kyrie and KD. I mean, those two dudes are like, we're brothers for life. I mean, KD's stuck up for Kyrie every step of the way for 2 years now. I'm not worried about that. You mentioned it. It's the Ben Simmons thing. Like, there's a part of me, you mentioned radioactive. I feel like everyone knows what to expect from Kyrie. You know what I mean? We know what Kyrie is at this point. We don't know what the heck Ben Simmons is. I mean, the dude is taking Instagram shots with random dudes on fishing boats, for goodness sake. Like, I don't know what to think of this guy anymore. I guess Ben Simmons' theory is stop doing videos of me playing basketball. If I take more videos of me not playing basketball, people will think, I don't know. I mean, I think the Ben Simmons thing you just brought up is the most wild card thing right now.
Yeah, definitely. When you're looking at the Nets and kind of, big questions heading into next season, it's going to be what form of Ben Simmons are the Nets going to get? Is this past year going to be a wake-up call for him? And is he going to embrace being the Draymond Green to Kyrie and KD every night? Because if that happens, Brooklyn is a pretty formidable big three if Ben Simmons can buy into that role and is out there every night. But is, Ben Simmons still going to be going through all this? Is he going to be the part-time guy, or him and Kyrie both going to be playing part-time? Like, there's so many questions looking at Brooklyn, but yes, I do agree. What form of Ben Simmons the Nets are going to get next year is, might even be a bigger question for them heading into next year than the whole Kyrie thing right now.
Is there a part of you that looks at the Nets and says they can't keep everybody, and you're maybe hoping that the Sixers can maybe steal like a Bruce Brown away from them?
Maybe. I mean, the Bruce Brown would be a little tricky just because he's not much of a floor spacer. But I mean, any wing that they could get that could come in and defend, I think would be a positive. But if I were them, I'd be looking at other sources. I think I'd take PJ Tucker over Bruce Brown. Nick Batum's an interesting name that I kind of have high on my list right now as a guy that could kind of come in and be a do-it-all forward. If they really wanted to gamble, I think Joe Ingles would be another very interesting name. Despite being fresh off the ACL tear, that's a little bit questionable, but another guy that could come in, do a little bit of everything for you on the wing. After the Melton trade, by far the Sixers' biggest priority this offseason, whether it be through signings or trades, is wing depth. You need playable wings, hopefully two-way guys outside of Matisse Thybulle, because we've seen with his offensive limitations, how that can hinder the Sixers offense at times. So you need somebody to come in and be a two-way playable wing to replace what Danny Green gave you over these past 2 seasons.
You mentioned Thybulle. We also saw the news that the Sixers have exercised the option on Shake Milton, so he's officially under contract for next year. But are both of those guys on this team next year? Is there a possibility that one or both of those two guys, Shake Milton and Matisse Thybulle, get traded before the season?
I would say yes, maybe just because we've seen Matisse Thybulle's name kind of be a common fixture in rumors leading up to the NBA draft. If one of them were to get traded, I think it would be Matisse Thybulle. I think Shake Milton, after what he's shown you, even just in flashes over these past few years, at him being paid under $2 million, like I think he's still valuable in terms of he's a rotational piece on a very, very, very team-friendly contract. So I don't know if they'd be willing to part ways with him unless it was, a sweetener for a clear upgrade, maybe. But if I had to pick a name that were to get traded this summer, I think it'd be Matisse Thybulle.
We're already seeing a situation where John Wall is basically going to go to the Clippers for the veteran minimum or whatever it's going to be, some like mid-level number after getting bought out from the Rockets. Kyrie threatened to basically leave the Nets and go to the Lakers for $6 million, basically, which, knowing him, I don't think that's the craziest thing in the world because we know he is that kind of person.
Absolutely.
We've seen players take less money to go play with star players before. So is that maybe the angle for the Sixers to try to find some guys? You mentioned Nick Batum. I mentioned Bruce Brown. We mentioned PJ Tucker. Is that really the thing we're looking at here? The Sixers going through the discount bin and saying who's willing to take the discount to play with Harden and Embiid?
Absolutely. I mean, you have to look out there for veterans who are looking to join a contending team, but not only joining a contending team, still being able to produce. Because like you said, coming in, you'll be playing alongside Joel Embiid, who's been a top 3 player in the league over the past 2 years, still a top 10 guy, through most of the recent years. James Harden, Tyrese Maxey. You also throw Doc Rivers in there. While, fans might not be very big on Doc Rivers, his name still holds cachet around the league. Last year, Andre Drummond and George Niang both said their phone call with him was like the thing that swung them to come sign in Philly. So I think Doc Rivers still has pull in this league with the right people. So, it's kind of marketing yourself with that. Future Hall of Fame head coach, pair of all-stars, rising young star, chance to contend for a title. They should absolutely be in the mix with what they have to offer a veteran that's, looking to still secure a roster spot and hopefully add a championship to their resume.
Now, with all that being said, I want to ask you something else about this offseason because Tobias Harris, we all loved him in Hustle. He was great. He's a great locker room guy. Everybody loves Tobias. The only people who hate Tobias are the Sixer fans, honestly, okay, who don't like Tobias. Like, let's be realistic. Everybody else loves Tobias. But is Tobias really the guy for this team moving forward to be that stretch 4? Or does Daryl Morey have to press the trade button to upgrade that position?
I wouldn't say he has to trade it, but obviously, given his contract, I think it's an avenue you should still, consider pursuing. After what we saw in the playoffs, I think it's kind of hard to say that Tobias Harris can't fit that role. He embraced, putting more energy in on the defensive end of the floor. I thought he did a very fine job defending Pascal Siakam in round 1. Did his best with Jimmy Butler in round 2 as well. He's adjusted nicely to his new role in the offense, and I think if you give him a full season with that, we could kind of see his percentages jump back up to what we saw not last season, but the season before that, where he was in consideration to be an all-star. So I wouldn't say it's necessarily something that needs to be done at this point. Also, I'm a little biased. I've also been a big fan of the Tobias Harris move. I think he fits what they're looking for nicely. At the end of the day, it does come down to the contract, and if you need to create some cap space for a better win-now move, obviously worth exploring, but I would say it's not something that needs to be rushed, and I wouldn't say the Sixers should go and be like running to dump Tobias Harris's contract to like OKC just to clear out the room to get off the deal.
Who's the backup center next season?
Paul Reed and Charles Bassey by committee.
I'm fine with that.
Or hot take, Andre Drummond comes back in free agency.
Here's the problem with Drummond. Do you think he's really willing to take a discount deal again?
Maybe. Depending on what the market is for him. If it's pretty dry again, and he could come back. Again, he's another one. Close relationship with Doc Rivers. And, Doc can call him and say, hey, things unfolded, not how they expected at the beginning of the year. Come back, prove to be the good backup he was to Embiid. Maybe get yourself a better payday somewhere else. Try again next summer. See, look at what JaVale McGee's done, bouncing around from team to team. Just getting in the right spot, being a good backup on a good team, like that gets you paid. So I think if the market dries up for Andre Drummond again, the path could be there to come back to Philly.
I mean, McGee's been to 3 different teams to the NBA Finals, right? He was with the Lakers, the Warriors, and was he the Suns backup when they went to the finals? Yeah, so
I believe so. I know it was his most recent year.
I mean, that's a good life right there. If you're getting to the finals that many times, and you're JaVale McGee, and you've been
it's all about being a superstar in your role, and JaVale McGee embraced that. And look at what it's done. Like you said, he went from a meme to like a very respected veteran backup center that's been a part of very good title-winning teams.
I mean, is JaVale McGee available this offseason? Maybe the Sixers can get him.
I believe he is a free agent, but I think he'll command a little bit more than the vet minimum. I don't think the Sixers should spend any more than the vet minimum on a backup center. That's just my opinion on it.
Well, the reason I'm asking about the backup center is also because of the fact that, I think that there's still a problem with Doc when it comes to playing these young players. And it feels like he's completely inconsistent because on one hand, he's given Maxey all this rope, right? He's given him all these opportunities. But then other guys, he's just like, nope, not even trying. And it's just so like I remember in Boston, people talk about like, oh, well, Doc at Boston. Do you remember Rondo playing all those minutes at like 22, 23 years old and Glenn Big Baby Davis? And it's not like Doc's anti-playing young player. I just think he's so inconsistent. We don't know what to do with him. And then he gets up and talks to people like you and Pompey and everybody in the media and gives these answers. I feel like he's just like, he's like, well, I've coached for 20 years. It's like that wasn't the question, Doc.
The only thing I will say is, even when, like, just looking at the Sixers roster in terms of opportunity when looking at a Tyrese Maxey and a Paul Reed, very different circumstances. Tyrese Maxey was supposed to be a lottery pick. I think if you redo that draft class, he's like a top 7 pick, while Paul Reed was, one of the final picks in the draft. Granted, can definitely carve out a role for himself as an energy guy, but very different circumstances. I think, with Doc, it's all about you have to earn it. And, it's a little tough at times, especially with a team like the Sixers, whose front court has kind of always been stable just because of who their star player is. But I think it's kind of tough to kind of put a lottery level talent and one of the final picks in the second round in the same boat together. A little tricky.
Before I let you go, do you know who Will Hardy was before the news was announced he's the next Jazz head coach?
No.
I feel better now. I literally had no idea. I didn't even know this guy interviewed for the Jazz job. Like, I feel like I could name all the other people. You know what I mean? Like, for goodness sake, I thought they were going to interview Kenny Atkinson at one point because he didn't take Charlotte's job. It felt like the Jazz were interviewing everyone and their cousin, and they land on Will Hardy. I'm just like, who?
I saw the name too pop up on my phone, and I was like, oh, interesting.
I thought the more interesting thing was, did you see who the new assistant GM is?
No.
David Fizdale.
Interesting. Listen, he's got the LeBron. He's got the LeBron seal of approval. Maybe Utah is trying to make a play at LeBron.
That's there's too much irony there. If LeBron went to Utah, I feel like it's like Fizdale could have been the head coach. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But he's the
both
assistant
been
GM.
Pulled a Stan Van Gundy, be a GM and a coach. Like Doc Rivers in LA for a little bit too.
Maybe Fizdale thinks he's the next Monty Williams, because remember Monty was in the front office with the San Antonio before he became Brett Brown's assistant, before he became Suns head coach. Maybe Fizdale thinks this is the new pathway for him. I don't know.
Yeah, or he's like Steve Kerr. He wants to do a little bit of everything before his career's over.
Steve Kerr literally did a little bit of everything before he became I mean, Steve was doing TV. He was doing the front office. He was, I remember the point where they said, I read that he was like a, not an advisor, a consultant for USA Basketball back in like 2008. Like, it's like, what did Steve Kerr not do at this point in his basketball life?
Hey, at least he's got nothing left on his bucket list. No regrets.
Oh, he's running out of bucket list items. That's for sure. He's Kevin McCormick. Follow him on Twitter at KevinMCC NBA for all your Sixers and NBA coverage. And he joined us right here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Kevin, appreciate you jumping on today.
No problem, Josh. Take care.
Josh Hennig here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN FM and the 97.3 ESPN mobile app, powered by First Bank of Seattle City. You can DM the show through the 97.3 ESPN mobile app or text in 609-403-0973 or wrap up the hour, easy for me to say, on the other side.
This weekend on ESPN Radio.
That's a 3-run home run for Paul Goldschmidt.
Paul Goldschmidt leads the St. Louis Cardinals into a 7-game NL East road trip that starts in Philadelphia against the Phillies.
Fly ball, left field, and gone. Opposite field home run, Kyle Schwarber.
the Cardinals and Phillies. Coverage begins Saturday at 3:30 Eastern and Sunday at 6 Eastern. Listen to Major League Baseball on 97.3 ESPN.
With GMF financing, approved credit excludes Corvette and prior sales. There's big news just announced from Bennett Chevy in Egg Harbor Township. Bennett's got huge savings on every new Chevy in stock. And right now, this is huge. Bennett's paying a record-breaking minimum $10,000 for any trade, running or not. That's at least 10 grand towards any pre-owned vehicle in stock. And we're loaded with them, so we're having a pre-owned liquidation. Hurry in for a minimum 10 grand for even the worst trade. And just think how much more you'll get for a good quality trade. As for new Chevys, unlike other dealers, Bennett's not selling over a factory sticker. Plus, there's 0% available financing. Stuck in a lease? We can get you out early, any make, any model, and we'll buy your vehicle even if you don't buy one of ours. Stop in for a quick quote. Never any pressure, never any obligation, because our non-commissioned sales staff is paid on your satisfaction, not how much you spend. So come on and find new roads at Bennett Chevrolet, Egg Harbor Township, and BennettChevy.com.
By now, you know that sound. It's the sound of the Home Depot. But what about those sounds? Those are the sounds of ice from LG's exclusive slow-melting craft ice for better tasting drinks, making this the sound of savings on top brand appliances. The Home Depot. How doers get more done. Get up to 25% off plus $750 instant savings on select LG appliances. Valid June 22nd through July 13th, U.S. only. Gas range extra. See store for details.
Hello, Discover here to explain our cash back match. Here's how it works. We give you cash back for using your Discover card on the things you were going to buy anyway. Then we match that cash back in your first year. And that's why we call it Cashback Match. Now to recap and say cashback one more time. We match all the cash back you've earned at the end of your first year automatically. Discover. Exceptionally common sense. Learn more at discover.com/match. Limitations apply.
On July 1st, Chris Pratt stars in The Terminal List.
Lieutenant Commander James Reese, can you outline the details of your mission?
It was a setup. They knew we were coming.
Nothing in this file adds up.
From Antoine Fuqua, director of Training Day.
Answers or blood? Blood. Stay off my list.
The Terminal List. New series, July 1st on Prime Video.
The city, Atlantic City. It's a fine place to enjoy life until somebody breaks the law. That's where we come in. We promote Springfield Mitsubishi Atlantic City, because they know it's a crime to pay more than a dime. Every vehicle, one dime down. Even if you have credit problems. We checked out the competition. Sir, how much do we need for a down payment?
Well, 2,000 down should do it.
Book them.
Wait, what are you doing?
Every vehicle should be one dime down.
But that's only at Springfield Mitsubishi Atlantic City. And they got that credit amnesty.
If you bring home $350 a week, you could get up to $25,000 in credit. 25 grand with only one dime down.
Even the new Outlander with third row seating?
Yes, sir. The all-new Springfield Mitsubishi Atlantic City in Pleasantville. They service all makes and models. Springfield Mitsubishi AC.com. Springfield Mitsubishi AC.com. New 22 Mirage 16 Ford, dime down, $249 a month for 72 months at 3% APR plus tax tag title to qualified buyers.
Now, more Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
Don't forget, you can join the conversation. Phillies, Sixers, and more. 609-403-0973 is the text. We're also download the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. You can DM the Sports Bash with Mike Gilkey and Josh Hennig, as well as your opportunity to win tickets to go see Ramstein at Lincoln Financial Field this summer. I was talking with Mike Gill earlier today because he's giving away the tickets on Friday's Sports Bash. So you can have your opportunity to win the tickets if you download the 97.3 ESPN mobile app and qualify. You know, I was telling Mike Gill the first time I heard of Ramstein was in the Vin Diesel movie Triple X. And I know for those of us of a certain age like me, you know exactly the movie I'm talking about. If you're out of the age range I am in, if you're not in that, how should I phrase this? Like that, let's see, it was 2002 when the movie came out. So I'm going to say if you're not in the like 32 to 48 age range, you might not be as familiar with like the importance or value of this movie because it wasn't a great movie, but it was one of those movies that kind of changed how you looked at the action movie genre, because it was the first time that you literally walked away from a movie and realized there was a different way of doing an action movie. And honestly, even though there have been a lot of action movies done that way ever again, I think that the fact that a movie like that was successful opened the opportunity for other movies to try different things, because there was a level of irreverence in that movie, and the embodiment of Vin Diesel as the continued anti-hero star, I think really opened up a lot of opportunities for people. I think it amplified the anti-hero aspect of action movies. And so for those who didn't see the movie, the scene where Vin Diesel's character goes undercover to meet with the terrorists, okay, it's at a Rammstein concert. Okay, the Rammstein's playing in this, wherever it was. I'm not even fully sure what kind of, it looks like a palace, for goodness sake. But it's supposed to be overseas, and Vin Diesel's there, and they're playing in the background the whole scene. And then later in the movie, War Rammstein is out there playing in the movie. So that was my introduction to the band. And I know they're a massive, popular band with a lot of people. So you have a chance to win tickets to go see them this summer. All you got to do is download the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. There was that run where Vin Diesel was like every man's like anti-hero famous guy, from, his character in Triple X to the Riddick movies to Fast and Furious. I mean, Vin Diesel was just like the man for like a 10-year run there. It was just like everything he did, you felt compelled to go watch it. Even if it was not that good, you still felt compelled to even watch a movie like A Man Apart, which was nothing like any of the other movies. But you felt compelled to watch his movies for a while. It was just that kind of box office star. It was ridiculous. All right, over on the text board at 609-403-0973. Dan and EHT chimes in and says, should Philly fans just be realistic and think only about the Eagles? Philly, Sixers, Flyers are just not real contenders right now. Dan and EHT, here's the thing. I think that it depends on what you mean by contender. I think that's where the rubber meets the road. If you're saying to win a championship, to win the ultimate prize in team sports, none of them are contenders. Okay? Do you really think the Eagles can win a Super Bowl this year? Or the Phillies win the World Series? The Sixers win an NBA championship? The Flyers win a Stanley Cup? You ask most Sixer fans, they'll probably tell you the Sixers have a better chance of winning an NBA championship than the Phillies of winning a World Series, or the Eagles winning a Super Bowl. So define contender. And that's the problem with a lot of the conversations we have. Look, I love sports, and anybody who's ever met me in person, all of you listening to my voice out there know I will talk to anyone. I don't care sometimes. A random person sitting, watching a game at the bar, I'll chat with you. I don't care. If you're a decent person, I'll talk to you for a while. I'll talk to anybody about sports. But here's the problem. When we have these conversations about sports, you know what happens more often than not? We're walking into these conversations with a different parameter of rules. What's a contender? What's an elite athlete, right? What is a franchise quarterback, right? We have these words and these phrases we use, but we're not always on the same page about how. What is these things? What is a contender? Until we define these things, I don't know how to answer some of these questions in a way to advance these conversations. Look, here's how I break it down. All four of the teams in Philadelphia have a chance to make the postseason every year. Here's why. Because in basketball and hockey, half the teams make the playoffs every year. The owner of the Eagles is always trying to win, so they'll always be at least in the conversation to make the postseason. And then the Phillies, Middleton keeps allowing his GMs to spend money. So you would think that the Phillies should be in a position to win. And frankly, if the Phillies didn't lose to the Marlins so much in the last few years, they might have made the postseason. So what do we mean by real contenders? If you mean, are they going to make the playoffs? Well, the hierarchy is probably Sixers, Eagles, Phillies, Flyers, I guess. I mean, the Phillies got Wheeler and Nola. As long as they're good, you have a chance to make the playoffs. But you're talking about a contender to win a championship? I think the only team that fits that category is the Sixers. The Sixers have Joel Embiid. And in basketball, you have to have one of the top 10 players typically to win a championship. The Warriors had Steph Curry. The Lakers had LeBron. The Bucks had Giannis. The Raptors had Kawhi. They won championships. That's how it works in basketball. Football's more complicated. There's so many things that go into it. Health, home field advantage, matchups, there's so many variables in football to factor in. And hockey is just such a strange thing because the Lightning were supposed to be the next dynasty, and they got outskated and outplayed by Colorado. And Colorado now looks like they might be top dog, but then next year might be like a completely different team that wins the cup. So, what is a contender? I'm Josh Hennig. This is Game Night. Have a great night.
Health Update with Robin Stoloff. Learn more, live.